Thanks for tuning in to the Nindie Nation podcast, your weekly dose of all things independently developed for the Nintendo Switch. I'm Jeff, and if you remember from last week, we're doing things a little bit differently while Josh is off gallivanting across the desert. Joining me this week from the Nintendo Nostalgia podcast, also a part of the Nintendo Village Network, please welcome Jacob Rush.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here. Now that Josh is gone, the show can finally get good, right?
Oh, there's my first edit to put in a sound effect for the week.
Oh, yes.
Thanks for joining, Jacob. We'll talk to you about some of your favorite games, let the listeners get a little bit of backstory about your gaming history. But for those new to the Nindie Nation, know that we are a weekly show dedicated to independent games on the Switch, almost always digitally available on the Nintendo eShop. We'll talk to you about the games that we're playing, the games that we think you might want to be playing, and as always, in the second half, we'll talk about upcoming new releases over the next week and games that are currently on sale that you cannot afford to miss. And typically, this is where we get into things that have been keeping our Joy-Con synced. Before we do that, Jacob, why don't you give us a little bit of background about your gaming history, a couple of your favorite video games, some things you've been playing recently, your exposure to the indie scene on the Switch, if you've got any favorites there. So tell me, what are the games that make you a gamer?
Oh, man, the games that make me a gamer. Well, I can give you a short, quick story, about just me in general. I was born into the NES. So my brother, I have three older brothers and one little sister, but when I was born, they already had a Nintendo. I was born 1990. October 22nd, 1990. So I was born into a world where Mario 3 just came out shortly after that.
Man.
I have a picture of me as a cartridge box is literally the size, half size of my body, for Easter. We got it for Easter. And so I grew up, starting out with mainly Mario Bros. 3, and Ninja Turtle games, TMNT and TMNT 2, the arcade game. Didn't have a Super Nintendo. Growing up, actually, I pretty much missed that whole era. I only had it through my best friend Traven at the time, so I met him in early preschool days, and we became best friends. We're still friends to this day. He's part of my NOS crew, and so I would always go to his house to play Super Nintendo games, and I fell in love with games like Mario World, Donkey Kong Country 2, Radical Rex, some of the old Batman and Star Wars games. And for my family, we had just the Game Boy, though, because our original Nintendo broke eventually, and my mom got rid of it. So I lived off of the Game Boy for about 6 to 8 years, and then it was just we had the fat gray one. My brother got it, which basically I played it more than him because I was the core gamer in the house. And then I had my mom eventually got my sister and my little sister. We got our Game Boy Pockets. Mine's over there, my shelf. My red Game Boy Pocket. She had a yellow one, and that was my gaming for years. And then finally, I was introduced to the Nintendo 64 with my buddy Traven. Diddy Kong Racing came over to his house. He had this new system, and we're playing it. My first intro really into 3D gaming. And my mom, I remember, it's one of my favorite stories to tell on our podcast. I tell it in more detail, but I remember thinking, well, since the 64's out and Traven got it, maybe I can get a Super Nintendo now and ask for it for Christmas because it should be cheaper, right? It's on the out, the new stuff's coming in, So I asked for it. I remember putting on my Christmas list and asked for all these games, all the same games that I always played at Traven's house. And then my mom went above and beyond, and she was that, it was that, what what's this gift back here, you know? And I opened it, and it was a Nintendo 64, and they're like, boom.
So you were the Nintendo 64 kid.
Yeah, I see my hoodie right here.
He's got the hoodie right now.
Oh, it's my favorite system. And
that's awesome.
That's really kind of when my gaming roots was born, really. I mean, like I said, I was always addicted to games, but I really feel like to understand, like, becoming, like, where gaming became life, you know, like obsession. And it was the 64. We got GoldenEye, Diddy Kong Racing, and Mario Kart 64 for that first Christmas.
Oh man.
All amazing games. I'm in the smaller camp that thinks Diddy Kong Racing is a superior game than Mario Kart 64, personally. I loved it. And I believe it or not, here's a fun fact. My favorite game of all time, I never owned it as a kid. I played it through my buddy, and he just, like, it got to the point to where, like, he had a 64, I had a 64, so, like, we would just trade games, and, like, he'd let me borrow it until I beat it. And so my favorite game of all time is actually Banjo-Kazooie.
Nice.
And I'm obsessed. I can't turn my computer around, but I'd show you. I have, like, a Banjo-Kazooie and Rare shrine. So I guess if you want to know my full-on roots, I'm a Rare kid. So, like, I grew up loving Rare and Nintendo games, GoldenEye, Donkey Kong Country, 64.
Blast Course?
I didn't actually play Blast Course.
Oh,
unfortunately.
I love Blast Course. That's one of my favorites.
I wanted to get to play it. Jet Force Gemini, you know, so, like, when Ukulele came out, I'm obsessed. I have a whole ukulele shrine. I got the 64 box and the cartridge, and I got it on vinyl and CD, and I have always, like, said it's stupid that people spend big money to buy statues, and I'm one of those stupid people that's actually making payments on my Banjo-Kazooie statue that should arrive sometime later this year. So, first four figures, if you remember that coming out last year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm obsessed with that.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Love the GameCube days, though, and I love games like Prime and Zelda and Metroid. I'm sorry, and you know, I'm definitely a Nintendo loyalist fanboy at my core, and I'm not ashamed to say that. That's for sure. I'm such a fanboy that as much as I love Rare, I refused to buy an Xbox, and I actually hated Microsoft for many years. And recently, since Phil Spencer's taken over, like, I don't mind them. I don't have this hatred towards them like I used to.
They've done some good stuff, but I had an Xbox through all of the Rare years, and I was the one that was convinced that Perfect Dark Zero was a better game than anybody thought it was. I actually went back and played it like a couple of years ago, and I was like, no, this game's awful. But
I just felt like that they kind of came in and they stole Rare from Nintendo, because I mean, if you know the details, again, like, Nintendo was going to purchase them, but Microsoft kind of, like, swooped in with a bigger deal at the last minute, and I always felt like, and I still do, and I know people will fight me to the death on this, but I feel like the games Rare make are made for Nintendo. Like, I feel like they would sell better.
For sure.
That's why games like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts didn't sell on Microsoft very well.
You're right. Sea of Thieves would probably sell better on a Switch, I think.
I really think it would. I know it's
I've never thought
for
about
the online
that.
stuff, but it just targets the Nintendo audience, and that's their roots. And it's always this, for the longest time, I felt like Microsoft underused Rare. Like, they tried games with them, and then they slapped this Kinect Sports sticker on it for a decade, and then that's all you got from them. And now they're doing a lot more, and that's credit to Phil Spencer, and I really like Phil Spencer. So I went from hating them to I don't mind them so much. And if all of these latest Microsoft rumors are true, I'm hoping one day I'm going to be able to play Banjo-Kazooie on my Switch again, and we'll have those classic games on a 64 Classic.
I would be willing to put some decent money down on a bet that Banjo-Kazooie is going to be one of those first 5 Smash fighters. I really
think so too.
There is such a love fest between Sony and Microsoft, or between Nintendo and Microsoft right now, that especially when Reggie, rest his soul, said, you know, at like the Game Awards, like, get ready to be blown away by this type of, you know, where did these people come from in the roster. I think you're gonna get your dream, and you're gonna be able to you're gonna be able to beat up Sonic as Banjo.
I will freaking weep. I don't normally weep openly over game announcements, but I would seriously cry because it's something that's I've just been held of for so long, Banjo-Kazooie on Nintendo. And some people think like, they're not doing that. They're going to put Master Chief, or they're going to put Steve. That's the other big one. Steve from Minecraft. It's way bigger. It's more popular with the kids today. They think he's more relevant. I think you're silly because I think
it'd be Banjo, I think.
Yeah, Smash Bros. Is made of Nintendo's history for the most part. And that is a missing piece of history that they just could never put in legally. And if they can, and they know tons of people want it, I think they'll do it.
I mean, I could see that happening at the same time as the N64 Classic launch.
Yes.
And, just like all these things that seem like a gap that we haven't heard about, there's discussions happening, and they'll all come to a head at one point.
I think so.
And then after that, they'll announce Mother 3.
Yeah.
That's great. Yes. That's great. So, what about Nindies? I mean, ukulele is a perfect example.
Yes.
I mean, you're seeing some of the big, some of the brightest minds from studios like Rare, get to go off and do their own thing, make the games that should say Banjo-Kazooie on them. So, ukulele is obviously a favorite of yours. What else in the indie space has really grabbed you on the Switch?
Well, so, it's a great question because I have kind of a unique history with Nindies in general, because it was like back in the Wii U days, because like I said, I don't have any other systems, so the Wii U days were struggling times. I would see Nindie games come out, and I'd always viewed them as like, these are just lesser games. Like, I don't want to play them. Like, why would I spend my
I did too.
If they're not a big company, why are they like, I don't want to waste my money or time on that. I just played what Nintendo gave me, for the most part. And my buddy Kyle Martin, who does our artwork for our show, he's an awesome artist. But he what I love about him is that he always like, it's like kind of like a love-hate. He always pushes my buttons, and he always challenges me, and he always annoys the crap out of me. And he's always hard on me on my opinions, and he's always hard on me about what I'm doing. Like, for the longest time, he just made fun of me because I was always like replaying, my Super Nintendo Donkey Kong Country games and the 64 games. And it's just like, he's like, you need to just play these indie games, because he really introduced me to it. So I did get ukulele, but he got me into stuff like Mutant Muds. He got me to buy Owlboy, and what he does is he pesters me and pesters me and pesters me. And so I'm like, fine, do it. Like, I just shut up. It's downloading. So when the Switch first came out, though, I ended up getting snipper clips right away. I got Zelda. I got Zelda and I got Bomberman because I got my Switch day one, and I got snipper clips. And my wife, there was something fun with my wife when I play, and we loved it. Got the DLC for that. And I bought Snake Pass. Couldn't wait to get Snake Pass. Took me a long time to understand the controls on that. It was really frustrating, but I finally got a hang of it to where it was just second nature. And Snake Pass was great because what I love about the Switch, man, and these indie games is that I feel like, because AAA studios and even Nintendo, like, they take years to get their games out. Years, because the projects are so big, apparently. But if you think back to like the 64 days and the Super Nintendo games, it felt like we got games all the time of different.
Yeah, we got games a lot quicker back then.
A lot quicker, and I feel like that's what indie studios are today. I feel like, so we're going to get Snake Pass, and like it felt like a Donkey Kong Country game, music and atmospheric wise, because David Wise did all the music for it, but. I feel like we get this is living like the old days. I do, and that's what I love about the indies is that there's always something there to grab and to help feed you while you're hungry, waiting for the next Metroid Prime 4 or the next Mario or Zelda, So I got Wonder Boy. I bought that because of Kyle. Mr. Gary Gray, our lovely friend Gary Gray, he got me connected with SteamWorld Dig 2. I was not intending buying that, and he hooked me up, and it was really great. It was really fun. I don't think it's better than Metroid Samus Returns, but I thought it was really fun.
I don't know that I would compare those two, really.
That's what a lot of people were at the time, though. Like, I remember listening
they came out like a couple of months from each other.
Really close to each other.
Yeah.
They're
But
saying that Steam World Dig 2 does it better than Metroid. I'm like, I disagree. They're different styles of games.
Yeah.
And they were both great. But then I got Axiom Verge, and I never got that on Wii U. I got it on Switch.
That's one I still need to play. I've got it, but I haven't played it yet.
I got NBA Playgrounds. Did not really like it. I got Celeste last year when everyone was hyping it up, and I remember listening to you guys actually talking about Celeste. So Celeste was fun. It was really good. The music was great. The story was great. The graphics were cool. I liked it, the story in general, what it was about. But it's one of those games where like I completed it. I beat it. Most of it. I didn't do all the extra challenges.
Right. The game is a ton.
It's brutal hard. Just playing the original game. It's one of those games where like I do not believe that you have to. Games do not have to be stupid hard to be fun.
No.
At the end of the day, they do not. And this is one of those games where like I'm not going to replay Celeste for a very long time because even though it was fun and I enjoyed my experience and I liked what it was about, it's just too hard for me to want to like put that effort into it and restart. So. Sure. I don't find dying a million times fun. I find it frustrating, so it's like
there's some foreshadowing for a game that we'll talk about that we both played this week.
That's very true. I got Poi on here. Poi is like, it totally reminds me of like Mario 64, but like a cheaper version of it, which is my favorite Mario game of all time. We do this fun thing with me and a couple of my friends where we do a must-get game where we force each other to get a game that we would not get on our own. I don't really play very rated M games. I don't like to, but one of my buddies, Chris White, you may know him. He had me get Inside, the game Inside. I played that, very freaky.
Yeah.
It was very good, but I was so like left with. It was one of those like where it's like where it ends is like that's it. Like there's got to be more. Like I was left unresolved. Like what? Yeah. What the heck, like I wanted a resolution to the story here. And I felt like I didn't get that. Iconoclast, I got that, and that was really fun. That is a Metroidvania. Very weird take on a religious society in this game. But have you played Iconoclast?
No, and it was I got it when it was free on PlayStation Plus a couple of months ago, and that's my next rainy day indie, I think.
It's really good. I do highly recommend it.
I love the music in it. We used it on one of our episodes. Good. Yeah, we used it on one of our episodes. And so, one of my favorite things to do is after recording every week, I dig around and find music for that week's episode. And when Iconoclast came to Switch, I remember staying up that night just like listening to all the music and was like, this is a reason to play the game on its own.
I would just let the pause screen be on, like in the first area, the green area you start in. It's just that song I'm like, this is so catchy. I love this. This is great.
Good jams.
And then I got Rocket League. Don't ever play Rocket League. I suck at it, and I never hooked me. I got Shantae and the Half Genie Hero just for Christmas.
I love that game.
That was good. And then I got The Messenger and Guacamelee. I got those recently, so I've like the games I actually got pretty far in, and then other stuff came out, and they kind of got put on hold. So I am holding out on them. So those are like your indie-based games. Obviously, Ukulele, bought that, loved it, played through it, and I got the physical copies, and I'm gonna play that. And I guess maybe the biggest game I would love to talk about that is an indie game, probably my favorite game. It's Undertale. I'm not an RPG guy. I'm like the opposite side of the Nintendo. Like there's one side that loves Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem, and I don't like those.
Hold up just a minute.
I don't.
I love me some Fire Emblem, but I do not like Animal Crossing.
Well, we can meet in the middle. I don't like Fire Emblem, but that's mainly because of my RPGs. I don't like RPGs. Okay. Most of them I don't.
Now, have you played Earthbound?
No, I had only played a little bit on my SNES.
And one of the episodes that we did recently, we were talking about RPGs that people who don't like RPGs generally like, and how I typically don't like those games. Like, I don't like Earthbound, but I have played more RPGs. I mean, then insert big metaphor that I'm too tired to think of right now.
Yeah.
But and Josh plays a lot of them as well, but I never cared for Earthbound. Y2K was the game that I was really excited for, and then when it came out, I was like, everybody keeps saying it's cool for the reason Earthbound is cool, and it turned me away from getting it. But I'm so glad. I listened to one of your episodes a couple of months ago, and you were talking about Undertale, and I was like, yes, because Josh and I do not get it. I have watched I've probably watched 4 hours of that game, and I still don't get it, and I still don't know why people say it's so good. So can you convince me to play Undertale?
I would love to. Well, first off, before we got started here, you and I were talking about music, and we both have a lot of pop punk roots here. But I will say, as I've gotten older and I've gotten out of the scene, I'm not in a band anymore. I am obsessed with video game music. So going back to my buddy Kyle Martin, who bugs the crap out of me, he kept. Last September was telling me, you got to get Undertale. You got to get Undertale. You got to get Undertale. So I'm like, I watched the trailer. I'm like, look at the graphics. I'm like, this looks like some stupid text-based game.
Yep.
I bought it, and the downloaded version. And I was just like, I sent a picture of him, and I kid you not, as I was downloading the game, I'm like, I don't know why I'm buying this. I'm not going to like this game, and I'm never going to play it. And it's just going to sit in my storage. And, I kind of begrudgingly bought it just to shut him up. I was just like, be quiet. Look, it's downloading. So I watched a little bit of video online. And he's like, you can't do it. You got to go in blind. And then I was in the middle of moving this past fall. And while we were moving, he was helping me move, and some of my NOS crew friends, and he started playing some of the music on there, and the music really kind of caught my attention. I'm like, oh, that's from Undertale. So that night, actually, after we were done moving, I bought the soundtrack. Even though I barely played the game, I bought the soundtrack. The music is real. Like, there's some 8-bit sounding stuff, but overall, it's violins, it's guitars, and I'm just like, it's really beautiful. There's so many tracks, and it was really fun because I remember we painted the house I'm in right now. We literally painted every single room in the house. So I had lots of time to listen to the soundtrack, and I just had it on repeat. But I was listening to it, and before I had played through the game all the way, it was really fun because I was able to use my imagination. I'm like, I wonder what this song is in the game. Like, this sounds like the credits, or this sounds like a really emotional part. Like, what's happening here? And as I played the game, I obviously know what tracks line up with what scenes, and some are funny. I'm like, that was with that scene, there's once you really dive into Undertale, you really start to see a lot of humor. I don't know how did you beat the game, or just get a little
No, I've never played it. No,
never even played it.
No, and I've watched 4 or 5 videos about. So here's the thing: I get the basic premise. I could regurgitate what the game is about. I could regurgitate what kind of happens at the end and then after that, but I almost feel like I disagree, because if you're with your friend, because I can't go in blind at this point, but I also think there's certain types of media that it doesn't matter how much someone explains it to you, experiencing it is much different. Somebody could have told me the whole story of Celeste, and I would have been like, I don't get it. I thought the concept and the story of Celeste was shallow and heavy-handed until I was halfway through the game, and then one line of dialogue clicked with me and everything changed. And I know a lot of people felt that way at different points in the game. And I think that's really cool about Celeste. So, maybe Undertale is in that same way, because I even knowing the story, I can't imagine why that's so mind-blowing or things like that. So I'll have to listen to the music, and maybe that'll convince me to play it, because that could.
I don't know if you're an emotional guy. I can get emotional, and I was telling I was texting my brother, I'm listening to this, and this music's giving me the feels. It connected to stuff in my own real life, and because I didn't know what happened in the game, so my mind was able to go other places, and it really just struck a chord with me. So the music actually made me want to play the game, and so as I played the game, I played it all the way through. So you probably know this, that like, your actions in the game affect the outcome and affect your next playthroughs,
Mm-hmm.
which is what's really cool. It's mind blowing. When I did my second run through, because I got the physical collector's edition because I loved it so much. I got it for Christmas, and this past Christmas. So I replayed it, the pacifist route, and it was crazy that crap I did during my first run. Like they would bring reference to, or something was different on my second run through because I did this.
Yeah.
And when you go in blind, like you make mistakes that you didn't mean to make, and it affects the overall game. And like I feel like if you really play it and you get involved, you get emotionally attached to the characters. And it even says at the end of the game, if you don't do a pacifist route, it says like Kyle, he was saying, because we did an Undertale episode like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so you can go back and listen to it, and it's all spoilers, but he's at the end of his run, the final boss said, like, he's like, well, maybe you can have a second chance and go back and restart this, So, I feel like this is a game of the generation. Like, this is like one of those, like, Mario Brothers was a game of generation. Even, maybe Mario World was, like every Mario 64 was. Every generation has a key game that like revolutionized something. And I feel like Undertale is that game for this generation. And
you're not the only person I've heard say like there's a lot of times that I'm on like a Reddit thread or something, and people are like, what's the best RPG? And so you go out there and what's the best RPG? Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 7, spoilers, that's wrong. Final Fantasy 9, Suikoden 2, and the list goes on. Like there are 5 games that every single gamer is going to reference. You can ask anybody, never touched an RPG, what's one of the best RPGs of all time? They're going to say Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
If they know the name Chrono Trigger, they're going to say Chrono Trigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time that I'm in like a Reddit thread, there's like one group of people and they're all like, nah, you're wrong, it's Undertale. And I'm like, come on. Come on. Do you even know the Dream Team made Chrono Trigger? Like, and they're all just like, nope, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's Undertale. I'm like, all right.
I'll say this. You can't not sit me down to play an RPG because I just get bored. And Undertale is the first RPG ever to overtake my life. Like above my favorite is 3D platformers and 2D platformers.
Mm-hmm.
And this game has captivated me. From the music. Like, I didn't even listen to Christmas music this year, man. I love Christmas music. I'm one of those people that would listen to, like, the Reliant K Christmas album year-round because it was so good. I didn't even want to listen to Christmas music because every time I got in my car to go somewhere, I'm like, I just want to listen to Undertale. So I put on Undertale.
I was like that with Cosmic Star Heroine last month.
Okay.
I love the music in that game. So have you played, because it came out this week, have you played Deltarune?
It's a great segue. I wanted to bring it up. So I haven't played it on my Switch yet. I just told you I'm a Nintendo loyalist. I don't play anything that's not Nintendo. Like, if it's not a Nintendo system, the Final Fantasy games, I always wanted to play them. Kingdom Hearts. I said, great. If they come to Nintendo, I will. Which I'm playing Final Fantasy 9, by the way. But
good. That's the best. That audience. That is the answer for.
That's the best one.
I really hesitate to ever be definitive by saying it's the best one, but yeah, I think so. It combines all of the things that every Final Fantasy, like if somebody says, what is Final Fantasy? I say it's Final Fantasy 9.
Nice. Well, I can talk a little bit more about it here in a second, but back to the sequel of Undertale, Deltarune. Is it a sequel? Is it not really a sequel? We don't know.
Right.
Deltarune's got its own crazy story, and it's got its own set of awesome music. My favorite song right now that I just get like remix version after remix. I just love to mix it up on how hearing a different iteration on one of my favorite songs is The World Revolving. You can look that up. It's in Deltarune. It's I am obsessed with that song. I have like 4 or 5 different versions of it on my phone that I'll listen to on my playlist. So
send me the link to your favorite one for either the intro or the outro of this episode.
Of The World Revolving. Okay.
Yeah.
I will send you that. Yes.
What else have you been playing this week? I know one of them we've both been playing.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, that's
all right.
Final Fantasy's kind of taking up most of my life right now. So
understand. I've been there a few times, 15 to be exact.
Yeah, so we got this game that we were playing and getting to feel for is 12 is Better Than 6 by Inkstain Games.
It is similar. It's your top-down, it's hand-drawn. It is fairly similar to Hotline Miami in that you're going into a room or an environment. You're moving around, very easy to die, to lose, and it's a Western theme. So you're picking up your 6-shooter or a rifle or whatever, and you're trying to get to different levels have different objectives. Like sometimes you have to go pick up a stick of dynamite. Sometimes you have to get to the other side unnoticed. And so it's like kind of stealth, kind of trying to get through as quick as possible. I have a feeling that there's probably goals for doing all these levels really quick or without being seen or whatever. It's really hard. I will say, I'm not making any commitments to that. Actually, I think I did make a commitment to Gary, so I probably have to do it now. But I agreed to do a YouTube Let's Play of this video, or of this game. And so I did that earlier today. And it would have been the worst video that had ever appeared on YouTube. I mean,
wow.
It was like 20 minutes of me trying not to swear because it was when I still thought it was me like, sir, what? Why are you? You know when you start asking questions of the game, like, oh, come on,
like that's ridiculous. Come on.
But I think it's cool so far, and I'm gonna play more, and I probably will do the Let's Play once I feel a little less of a noob playing it. What's been your experience with it?
So yeah, like you, I was kind of confused at first because you kind of just jump in, and I thought like I had like a pickaxe. I'm like, is this like a mining game? Like, because I know literally nothing about this game, and you just kept going forward, and you just get to the end, and you just like hit the A button. You just skip to the next chapter. Kind of. I'm like, I felt like it was kind of pointless. Like, why am I doing this? Like,
yes, the tutorial is very misleading.
Yeah, it seemed very weird. I didn't get that. I thought honestly, I don't mean to come on and like crap on this game now. But I have to be honest. Like I thought the art style was kind of hard to look at, as in like it's just black and white almost, and it wasn't. It could be confusing to like what's what, and. It took me a while to understand how to shoot. I just felt like it wasn't very clear, Like
it's very confusing. Yeah, that's exactly why my video wasn't very good, because I spend so much of the time like, okay, I push B to switch between my items.
Yeah.
And when I try to shoot, it tells me that I have to cock the gun first.
Yes.
And to the point that the character has a speech bubble for it. And it's like, well, if you know people are going to do it that often, why don't you just let it play out like a twin stick shooter then?
Right.
Yeah, it was frustrating. And it's definitely one that I'm going to report back on next week, because like, I feel like if you really get in the groove with it, if you got really good at the game, it could probably be really fun. And the start and stop, retrying of it is really fast. After, to your point, Jacob, I died and it says dead on the screen really big, and I pushed like every button on the switch. Yeah. And I was like, how do you restart? There's no prompt.
It takes
and
forever.
You have to click the trigger. Like, when have you ever played a game where restart, like, guys, restarting the level is A in every video game since the dawn of man. Like,
and I was the same way. Because when I died, the first couple times, I'm like, I accidentally hit it to trigger. I was like, because I didn't realize that at first till I was catching on. I was like, man, like these load screens to like respawn are forever. Like, why is this taking so long? But then I figured it out once you do figure it out, it is simple and you're just quick and snappy.
Very fast, yeah.
Which is good, but like you said, I don't feel like they did a good job at mapping out the controls on this game.
Yeah, I agree there as well. I do say that well, it's hard because if you are really into the Hotline Miami style games, there's another one coming out this week that probably is going to take your attention. So check back next week. I would say if you're thinking about this game, maybe lean into Ape Out for this week and come back to 12 is better than 6 next week. So also over the last week, last week with Eric, I mentioned Dungeon Stars, the game that seems like a mobile game that isn't very good, and I can't stop playing it for some reason. I'm still playing that, and I don't know why. I made a YouTube video of it. So if you want to go see one of the Let's Play Nindies up on the YouTube channel, you can see me play about a half hour of that game and explain, what's going on. And you can see how the game just like completely stops, like freezes, lags multiple times in every level. And I still put up with it. And I put up with the fact that it almost feels like it was a free-to-play game and they forgot to put in the microtransactions. Like just the progression is so slow in it. But I don't know what's wrong with me. I keep playing it. And I don't know. It's easy to play with one hand or while you're watching TV, and that's probably why I keep playing it, because we're like watching a show on Netflix and I can just like my way through it. But then also new game this week that I am absolutely smitten with is Daggerhood, and this is the new game by Ratalaika, and Josh and I are big fans of Ratalaika. I told Eric last week that they've done a really good job of consistently releasing games that I think fall in like the 5, 6, or 7 out of 10 score. These are 2 or 3 guys that published 19 games so far on the Switch. None of them are incredible, but a lot of them are competent and pretty decent, and they put them out at a fair price, and they're getting better. They did Shadow of Loot Box, they did Devious Dungeon. This week they announced Devious Dungeon 2. I can't wait for that, and I think Daggerhood is their breakout hit. It is a 2D platformer. It looks a lot like and feels a lot like Celeste. The gimmick of the game is that you press a button to throw a dagger, and when you push the button again, you teleport to the dagger. And so in general, the goal is, I think there's like 7 or 8 worlds. Each world has 20 levels or 19 levels in a boss fight. The game's like $5, I think. Might be $7 on sale for $5, I think. And I made a YouTube video for this, and in fact, that video is my first playthrough of it. So you can see me loading it up, and within 10 minutes, I'm saying, this game is awesome. It feels incredible. The mechanics, the way the character moves around the screen, how you look at this intricate puzzle platforming challenge and work out in your head, how am I going to do it? And then you execute it flawlessly is just awesome. The feedback of the controller, the surprise, skip to like 21 minutes into the YouTube video and watch me when I realize I'm entering the first boss fight, and the slow progression of me saying, "Oh, this looks easy," and then getting my butt handed to me, and then coming back around and beating it is just like, that's why I like to play games. That whole like challenge, it's hard, I can overcome it, I did it. It's my ability or whatever as a gamer that overcame it, and I think Daggerhood is very quickly becoming one of my next, especially at $5 or $7 or whatever, games that I recommend to just about everybody.
It's actually at $3.99 right now. It's on 20% off. So
buy Daggerhood, everybody buy Daggerhood.
I'm gonna buy it right now.
$3.99. It's awesome. It's so much fun.
So after tax, $4.27 in the Americas.
Yeah, you gotta pay the man.
That's right. You gotta pay. Yeah, I'm gonna buy it right now.
Awesome. Good. I'm glad to hear it.
All done.
There it is. Oh, we always celebrate when we have a purchase done live on the podcast. I've bought some real turds over the course of recording this show.
Well, I'm always trying, because I tell you, Kyle Martin, he always gets on my case about buying games, and I want to get him. I want to like say, hey, yo, you need to get this game, and he actually does it and likes it, It's
good. Yeah, you can totally take credit.
I take all the credit there. Like, yeah, I know a guy, so No, yeah, cool. I'll check that out later.
Awesome. All right, well, let us get into the games that are coming out this week on the eShop. To get started, let's talk about things that have come out in the last week since we recorded. Jacob, why don't you walk us through a couple of these?
Some games that have just come out. My goodness. Well, it looks like we have you mentioned it already, the Alp 8 by Devolver Digital. It's $14.99 on the eShop, and it's a top-down game similar to Hotline Miami, where you play as an ape escaping a research facility. An ape,
as one would. Have you seen this game?
I haven't. No.
Okay.
Dynamic jazz fusion soundtrack. Nice.
So Ape Out, yes, is the top-down style game. What grabbed me about the game is it's got a very, very primitive looking art style. But what really grabbed me about it was when I heard about the soundtrack. It's got this weird jazz fusion type soundtrack, but the entire soundtrack is dynamic and built off of like the ape running through the research facility. When you throw an enemy into the wall, it does a drum fill or a quick cymbal hit, and it's all like super dynamic. It's getting high 80s, low 90s Metacritic scores right now. It just came out. New game by Devolver Digital. Seems like this is probably the big game on the eShop right now, and it looks like it's getting really, really good reception so far. So I'm looking forward to diving into this one.
Well, you know me being a big, massive Donkey Kong Country fan, I'm all about stuff with apes and gorillas and.
Well, if you've ever wanted to cause a gigantic bloody mess,
oh man,
throw people out of glass panes, out of skyscrapers as Donkey Kong.
I see there's a lot of blood in this trailer, like when he hits a character.
I mean, like the majority of the color in the game is blood splatter, similar to 12 is better than 6.
Yeah, but this is a T rating, which is a little weird. So
that is kind of weird.
Like, if there's that much blood, I'm surprised that it's not a rated M.
And maybe that's the total extent of it, is like the same blood splatter for every action. Like, if that's the extent of the violence, then maybe that kind of counts.
Yeah. Is there any language in it at all, or?
I don't know that there's any dialogue in it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll say watch a quick minute or watch the IGN review or something. It sold me on the game. I think I'm going to give it a shot. Basically, you run through the room, you try to get to the other side. They're kind of randomly generated levels. Mm-hmm. And the only thing you can do is shove or grab. And so, like, you grab a guy that has a gun, they panic, and they start shooting in front of you, and you hold them as you walk through the level, and then you shove them and stuff like that. And it seems, you mentioned that you don't play many mature games, and I don't either. Mm-hmm. This one seems to be, like, right on the edge of, like, I'm not going to play it while my family's watching, but it seems like fun enough, and that soundtrack seems so cool that I think I'm going to have to give it a shot.
Well, I think it's fair to mention on the 12 is better than 6, though. That is rated M. And rightfully so. I mean, you shoot people and blood just goes out everywhere. They do look more like there's a person you're shooting.
Yeah,
whereas in this game, the art style can kind of drown that out a little bit of realism, and and there is language in the 12 is better than 6 game.
You might be interested in a couple of the other games that have come out over the last week. Pixel Devil and the Broken Cartridge by Black Sun Games is an 8-bit action platformer. Looks like it's straight out of the NES days. It launched for $10, and one of my favorite lines in the description for the game is, "The 90s called and they want their awesomeness back." Also out this week is Dark Quest 2 by Brain Seal Entertainment. It launched for $10.99. Looks like a Diablo-style game, but it's turn-based, so it's a dungeon crawler. What grabbed me is that it has drop-in, drop-out 3-player co-op, which is kind of cool. I don't know that I've played many party turn-based RPGs where you can have that type of co-op multiplayer in it, so I really like that.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, launching on March 1st, Jacob, you're a Nintendo kid. Did you ever play Toe Jam and Earl?
I Unfortunately, no.
Because it was a Sega franchise.
It was a Sega, but it came out on like Super Nintendo, right?
No, 1 and 2
Really?
came out on the Genesis, and then 3 came out on the Xbox, the original Xbox, and it was not good, and I played all the way through it. Toe Jam and Earl is frankly one of the original roguelikes. It's randomly generated levels. You're in this like top-down isometric view, very cartoony. When it released in 1991, it was a parody of current pop culture. Like everybody ran around with boom boxes and like just very much a parody of the times. And the recreation of it, this is in a similar vein as Ukulele. A lot of the original team that made the Toe Jam and Earl series 1 and 2 got a Kickstarter going and funded Toe Jam and Earl back in the groove under the new name Human Nature Studios. And this has been long in the making. They've been making it for 3 or 4 years now. Again, Greg Johnson is at the helm. And it is, you're guiding your characters through these randomly generated worlds where you're finding items, picking them up, solving puzzles, doing a little bit of action RPG stuff, and just generally taking in the environment. It is very like live motion action type of gameplay. You're not sitting around looking around or reading dialogue much, but it is hilarious. It launches in just about an hour from when we're recording this, and I very much look forward to reporting on this next week.
Going to Blockbuster back in the 90s, I always remember seeing it on the shelf, and I do always remember tapping back in my nostalgia mind, it always being an attractive game. Like, it always looked like, that looks like something I would like, you know? It looked fun. I wanted to grab it and play it, but alas, I only played Nintendo, so like never would work on my system, so I didn't ever pursue it.
Yeah. Why don't you take us through a couple of these next zingers we got coming out?
Hey, that's a Donkey Kong Country reference there. Klondike Solitaire. Was this like Klondike bars or something? While you're playing, are they eating Klondike bars?
What would you do for a Klondike Solitaire?
I guess I would eat a Klondike bar while I'm playing Solitaire for this game for $9. $8.99. Yeah, it's Solitaire on the Switch. Unconfirmed if the cards dance off the screen when you win, though. Interesting. Maybe that's a game my wife might like.
There you go.
You know, that's
wife game.
There's some 90s gaming right there. Solitaire on the old computers. Tardy by Dragius. It's a point-and-click adventure with a rotoscoped art style like Flashback and Out of This World. Played a little bit, and this style just isn't. It's just not really your jam, I guess, right? But it's well done, and it tells a cool sci-fi story with good humor. So, and it has an endearing romance plot. Interesting. Well, I mean, you got sci-fi, you got romance, and you've got humor. So that's all good for it. That's a good combination to have
for a good game. It's just I don't do much
point and
click. Yeah, I don't do much of those. So I need Josh to play this game. Yeah. Sword and Soldiers 2. I don't know. Sword and Soldiers 2 Shawarmageddon by Ronimo Games is $12.74. We talked about this side-scrolling tower defense game that came out a couple weeks ago. And this is the sequel to it, and Josh and I have both played the game, really enjoyed it. And if you're looking for that style of tower defense game, this is probably the one to get right now because it adds 2-player co-op on the same screen, and we don't get that much of that nowadays.
Yeah. Let me talk about this next game here real quick. Awesome P, Sometimes You, $5.39, and it offers a demo. I actually, while we were talking, I just downloaded it. I didn't know this game was I didn't realize this game was on our list today, and I just downloaded it because I'm like, this looks like Kirby, honestly. Like on the Game Boy, it looks like old school because you're just a little green pea. They're playing into the color system of the Game Boy there. It looks fun. I'm excited to play this. I'm like, this might be really good. This might be one of those clever games I get my buddy to get, you know. It's found it before him. So I'm excited. The demo just downloaded, so I'm excited to try that out too. Look, I did not plan on getting all these games. What are you doing to me? I'm trying to play Final Fantasy, and you're getting me all these indie games while we're talking here.
Well, the good thing here is most of these games are probably shorter than your average JRPG.
Oh my gosh, I probably could beat them in the first 10 minutes of what Final Fantasy
Probably.
is.
And the next we've got Pirates Pinball from Enjoy Up Games, $1.97. These are the guys that continuously release themed pinball games every week. And all I want to know is, can we stop with the single theme pinballs and start combining them? Like I want like dinosaur pirate pinball or sci-fi ogre pinball or something like that.
So what? Do they do updates to these games? Like, are there multiple levels that come to like the pirate themed pinball? Or do you just get like one pinball area for the pirates?
I think you get like
it?
one or two tables that are themed, and then every week you get to buy a new $2 game.
What? So it's kind of like DLC to where by the time they've released their 20th set, you've already bought like. If you're obsessed with pinball, you've bought you. It's like they're kind of charging you for every level of what should be in a big game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the goal there, the strategy is probably like anybody that gets a Switch, if they go on the eShop and they search for pinball, their game is going to be up there as a new release. Like, oh, a brand new, I don't know, lawnmower pinball or whatever the theme is that week.
Pinball. Well, I guess it's a strategy. Not much of a pinball guy, though. Except for Metroid Prime Pinball. That was pretty fun back in the day.
That was pretty good with the Rumble Pack.
Oh, heck yeah.
The next game we've got is Creepy Road by Groovy Milk, and it launches for $11.69. This game is not typically something that I would think is in my wheelhouse, but I'm kind of drawn to it. It's got this gorgeous hand-drawn art style. It's a 2D action adventure, so you're like platforming between levels, but then you get into battles, and it plays out like a platformer shooter thing. Very comedy-driven zombie game. Like the world has gone crazy, and rednecks are running around with booze and shotguns, and cute little farm animals and woodland creatures have turned into ravenous zombies. And
oh, nice.
I mean, it looks grotesque, but like the art style is really well done. It looks like a very well-made game. So I'm interested in this one. I put this one on my wish list. Might check it out when it goes on sale.
Cool. Yeah, it does look interesting. Treasure Stack, Pixel Lakes, $17.99. So it's got RPG mechanics, but it's a falling block puzzle game with a same screen 4-player and online play. So what is that? Is that like Tetris? Kind of?
Yeah, it looks a lot like Tetris. It looks like Puzzle Quest. I'll tell you what, I wish that I'm glad I'm not the indie developer that released a falling block puzzle game the week after Tetris 99 dropped for free.
Those poor people, they probably had no idea.
We also got Shred 2, Free Ride Mountain Biking by Asbo Interactive, drops for $10. It's kind of like a mix of the Trials games or a Tony Hawk game. It looks like a Tony Hawk game, but in the downhill biking style. And, you know, when I looked at it, I kind of wanted to poo-poo all over it, but then I realized this game is made by one dude, and everything got a lot more impressive at that point. Yeah. Lots of cool like combos and stuff like that. Sometimes the levels look very realistic. Sometimes they look like loops and stuff like that. All BMX biking, and it looks like it runs very well. And not my bag, but for $10, it looked neat. Did a lot of cool tricks with like perspective changes when you'd like go from one track to another. The camera pulls back or spins around the bike and stuff. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, it just makes me miss that we don't have any good Tony Hawk games.
Right?
Tony Hawk was on a roll for a while there,
and
then they just went down.
The soundtrack of a generation.
Oh gosh, yes, heck yeah. So we got Queens for Quest 2, Stories of a Forgotten Past, by Artifacts Mundi. $15. Thank you. It's and it says it's an point and click adventure, but it's got a unique art style. That with a cool. It's like a storybook art style. And you're investigating a murder as a shapeshifter. So, I mean, point and click, man. I don't know. That doesn't sound very fun on my Switch, but
yeah, at least you can poke it.
Yeah, you can poke it. And then I guess you have the History 2048 by Rundown Games for $5. That's a reboot of the 2048 puzzle game. And it's
It is so hard to figure out what's going on in this game. And it's weird because the description all over, it's like the familiar puzzle game. And I'm like, it looks like buildings on a grid.
Yeah.
What do you do? And then I looked at the trailer, and it's like a cinematic cutscene. I'm like, well, that doesn't help at all.
Yeah, darn.
On March 2nd, we've got Riddled Corpses EX by Cowcat.
Oh, man.
Top-down twin-stick arcade shooter. Same developer as Xenon Valkyrie, who is in the process of porting all their games over to the Switch. Looks like a fun 4-player game. Has a story in arcade mode, tons of items, pixel art, explosions, and general end-of-the-world blow everything up goodness.
Oh, it's like a Michael Bay movie or something.
Yeah,
Explosions.
Pretty much. Can you tell me about RBI Baseball?
Yeah, it's coming out on March 5th. By ML Bam at $29.99. My goodness, that's kind of a high price. I don't do much sports ball either, man. Honestly, baseball is not it's not up my alley. I was one of the kids. I was always like playing in the sand back in Pee Wee days and putting it in my glove. I wasn't paying any attention. It never really hooked me. So, not even Mario Baseball, really. Even though I had it on the Game Boy. It hasn't received very good reviews in the past couple of years, and this is independently developed. It sounds like it is just by the name of the studio, but that price tag as well seems a little
big one. It's a big one. Yep.
Yeah.
Have you heard about Beat Cop?
I have not heard about Beat Cop.
This is a big one. It's a highly anticipated like cop simulator style game. It has a cool like pseudo realistic but retro pixel art style, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. From what I can tell, it's an adventure game, maybe a point and click adventure game. It's getting really good reviews, but I'll tell you what, you look at the ESRB rating and it reads like a who's who of late night HBO movies.
Really?
Sounds like awesome music. If you wanna check out an R-rated cop game, that could be your bag.
Pixel Crow. I don't even know if 11-bit Studio sounds familiar. I don't even know if I've heard of Pixel Crow. Yeah, interesting. The next game on March 5th here is Bard's Gold by Pixel Lantern. $8.09 is the cost price here. $8.09. And it's a game on Switch. The first style of game on Switch from Pixel Lantern. It's a 2D retro roguelike game with over 100 randomly generated levels that looks a lot like Chasm.
Pillar by Michael Hicks for $7.99. Explore an intimate snowy town through the unique collection of mini-games based on personality traits like intro and extroversion. I watched some of the videos, but literally every single mini game, it was like someone walking around really slowly stepping on numbered switches with weird like synthy textures playing in the background. I didn't get it, but it's $7.99 if you want to check that out.
Unknown Fate, Marslet games for $14.99. It's a kind of scary looking Japanese game, sci-fi inspired first person puzzle adventure. Where you explore an unknown and creepy world as a dude named Richard.
Darkest Hunters by Ultimate Games launches for $5.30. It's a puzzle RPG game that looks exactly like Puzzle Quest and offers very little information in the description or online otherwise. So this one's just kind of being sent out to die.
Poor game.
Next is 12 is Better Than 6. We talked about that already. Launched by Hype Train Digital, and I could not see the price because I picked it up. I think it is $9.99 if I remember. So you heard about that earlier. What's coming out on March 6th?
March 6th, Elevator to the Moon Turbo Champions Edition Arcade Distillery for $14.99. Wow, the name sounds intriguing enough. Originally a VR title? Really, a VR title. And this is a first-person point-and-click adventure. It is built like a sci-fi escape room-style adventure.
Yeah, it seemed kind of cool. That'd be a little too stressful for me, I think. On March 7th, here comes the big drop for the week. We have the Braveland Trilogy by Ellada, I don't know. Ellada Games for $13.49. 3 games for the price of 1. All 3
Beautiful.
titles are turn-based strategy games with pretty hand-drawn artwork.
Our next game is Hard West Forever Entertainment, $12.05. And it's a weird West world with demons and creepy stuff that populate an isometric view with real-time turn-based action, kind of like Valkyria Chronicles. But it's like in a theme of a scary world of Will Smith's Wild Wild West. So it was like Will Smith's Wild Wild West meets I Am Legend Will Smith, kind of like a combination.
There
of
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it looked like, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Next we have Valley by Blue Isle Studios, launching for 20 bones. Explore a remote hidden forest in the Rocky Mountains in this first-person adventure where you have an exoskeleton suit that lets you run, jump, and glide through the environments. It looked like Metroid Prime without any of the lore or enemies or combat. It's
Really?
just running around with cool, like, platforming. I don't know.
But there's no story.
It really didn't look like anything else was going on. You're just kind of like making your way through a forest.
Okay. And then our last game that I see we have here is Ghoul Boy by Dolores Entertainment. And for $9.99, it is a 2D retro platformer inspired by Ghost and Goblin, shocker, or Castlevania. And these guys, they made Bit Dungeon Plus,
And if you listened last week,
yeah.
I played Bit Dungeon Plus, and I did not like that game. So I don't know that I trust them.
that had a demo, didn't it?
It did. I think it just came out after I bought the game. Yeah, Bit Dungeon Plus. They told me it was going to be like Zelda, and it ain't like Zelda.
Bummer.
Zelda don't do that to my heart. All right, well, let's talk about the games that are on sale this week. Through at least March 7th, unless otherwise noted. I would like to point out that Bastion and Transistor are both on sale and are both incredible games if you are into a good narrative action RPG adventure. Check them out. They're fantastic games. Bastion is 30% off at $10.49, and Transistor is 30% off at $13.99.
Nice. I want to bring up Nine Parchments. Actually, that is a game I forgot to mention that I do have. Yeah, I believe I somehow received a free code for that game, so I have it on my Switch. And I played through like the first 2 worlds with a couple of my friends and stuff. It's not a bad game. It's kind of like what Diablo is, so I have come to find out, and just like more like Harry Potter is, instead, because it's like wizards and whatnot. But it's not a bad game. If you like Diablo and stuff like that, I'd recommend definitely give it a try. But it's on sale again for 70% at $5.99. So
yeah, it's always on sale, and Josh and I joke about it every time it's on sale. And I always hear if you've got people to play with, it's pretty fun.
It's definitely you need to play with a friend kind of game.
Yeah. Child of Light is an indie developed game but published by Ubisoft. But we have talked about this game in the past. It's 50% off for $9.99 and is one of the best Western-made role-playing games that I've ever played. It in between battles, you are on a 2D platforming plane, and so it really takes away a lot of the things that might turn other RPG gamers off, and I think it is a phenomenal game that is about 12 hours long, something. It's very short RPG, and every line in the video game is spoken in what's it called? Iambic pentameter. So the whole game rhymes. The whole game is a poem. Every line, even when you go in the menus and it's telling you how to play the game. And
that's
it is
clever.
Really cool. Made by the guy that created the Far Cry series. It was after Far Cry 3 came out and blew up, he went to Ubisoft and said, let me make this passion project. And it's nothing. I mean, you would never guess that the person that made Far Cry made Child of Light, but it's a fantastic game. I bought that game and played it all the way through on the Vita and the PS4, and then it was free on the Xbox One, and I played it there as well. So awesome game.
Very neat. It sounds interesting. A lot of rhyming. Banjo-Kazooie has a lot of rhyming. Maybe I'll like it. So.
Oh, does it? I've only played like an hour of Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. Hey, man, if I'm playing Final Fantasy IX, if Banjo-Kazooie comes to the Switch, you need to play through the whole game.
You got it.
There's no speed up feature, but you don't need it for this game because it's...
You got it. I will.
It's glorious.
I like the collectathons.
Yes. Oh, me too. Don't get me started. We will be here another hour. Did we say Malacca? 40%, $11.98. I don't really know much about this game at all, but that is on sale.
Yep, it's kind of like it's a action platformer kind of game that got really good reviews when it came out a few months ago.
Okay.
Skyforce Reloaded and Skyforce Anniversary. Remember, these are games that I fell in love with. They are top-down shmups that play out like an RPG. RPG mechanics, and they're really, really, really fun. One of the best arcade game style experiences, I think, are on the Switch. Only on sale through March 3rd. And of the two, I recommend Skyforce Reloaded. We also have Daggerhood, which I talked about and fell in love with. And Jacob mentioned it's only $3.99 right now. It's 10% off. Buy that game. Buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it.
I just did it. Everyone's doing it.
Everyone's doing it. If everybody else is doing it, you should do it too. That's what they always say.
That's right. Get in or get out, like the N64 days.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was a Nintendo slogan.
Yeah, for the 64, yep.
Like they say with indie games, always give in to peer pressure. But
just do it.
But not with anything else, kids. Stay off drugs.
Yes, please.
Crack is whack. And that is your PSA for this week on Nindie Nation. Thank you so much for joining us this week. You can find me on Twitter at NindieJeff. You can find Nindie Nation online on Twitter at Nindie Nation. You can find Jacob at
NoshJacob73 on Twitter, and I'm also on Facebook. But you can find my show, Nintendo Nostalgia. We're on Nintendo Nostalgia. IN is typically how you can kind of find us on Facebook. We have to add that IN there for some reason, but Nintendo _nostalgia as well. You can find us on Twitter and follow us. Our show's all about nostalgia. It's all about dipping into the past and what we loved and grew up loving, and our memories with that, you know. So it's and we love, like this week's episode's music episode. We love those. It's all about dipping into past tracks that take us back to the good old days when we first experienced a game.
I haven't heard that yet. So did you talk, let me think of some of my favorite Nintendo tracks. Did you talk about Donkey Kong Country's Water Level?
We did not this week. We have episodes before, but not this one.
Yeah, I will say that Nintendo Nostalgia, when I listen, it's the podcast that, like, on my drives, I'm sitting there just like kind of like nodding my head like, yep, yeah. So please check it out. And I usually do this to Josh every week, and I'm debating if I do it to Jacob or if I do it myself. No, I forget. We're a part of the Nintendo Village podcast network, but I have no idea what that is. Jacob, can you tell me what Nintendo Village is?
Yeah, Nintendo Village, that is, it's basically our hub host website where we share with a good handful of other shows that are on this, and we're all part of this village. So I guess we're not Animal Crossing friends, but you could kind of view it as like an Animal Crossing town, and we all have our own little house in the town, and we all love Nintendo at the end of the day, and we all somehow represent Nintendo in what way. Ryan and I, my co-host, we talk about the past, and we try to connect people from what got them originally to fall in love with Nintendo and connect them to where Nintendo is today and what we like to see with, you know, games or characters or music and where Nintendo is moving forward with that stuff. So, we're talking about the indies and spreading the love there for it helps me find games like I did tonight, you know, and to get more information on Nindies, and we want to support those. So, and yeah, other shows just represent other forms of Nintendo. So, that's where we're all from. We're all part of this little village together. We all love each other. We're all brothers,
village. And it is growing. Launching this week, the new Nindie Zone on the Nintendo Village.
What?
You're going to be seeing more articles, short form reviews, initial impressions, more video content, all kinds of awesome Nindie content on the Nintendo Village site and channel and Twitter feed and all that good stuff. You can find us on YouTube at search for Nindie Nation. Again, there is a Daggerhood Let's Play this week, as well as a Dungeon Stars Let's Play. And maybe by the time this podcast gets up, there will be a 12 is Better Than 6 Let's Plays, so you can see me fumble my way through that. And on Facebook, find us at Nindie Nation. Jacob, thank you so much for joining me this week. Everybody go check out Nintendo Nostalgia so you can nod your head as you drive along and listen into the wonders of the Nintendo past. I'm Jeff. That's Jacob. This week we are Nindie Nation. Thank you so much for listening. And until next week, keep those Joy-Cons synced.